Hey guys, this is Chan Sterling, and I'm here to do a little bit of nerd information for you, kind of a know your stuff primer for a special thing that happens with the Avengers movie. Now, if you have not seen the new Avengers film, you probably don't want to watch this video because I'm giving away a little bit of a spoiler, and I'm going to talk about some stuff that happened in the film. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might just want to click the little X button, stop the video, and then you can come back after you see the movie, which you should go and see because it's totally freaking awesome. So, for those of you who stayed after the credits, or at least part of the way through the credits, you might have noticed that there was an ending scene. Now, in the ending scene, we saw a being known as the Other, which is the guy that Loki was talking to during the film, that gave him the Chitauri army, those aliens, and seemed to give him that scepter that gave him a whole bunch of cool powers. Now, at the end of the film, we see that same guy talking to someone with their back to us, and he says to go to Earth to battle would be to court death. At which point the figure turns around and smiles at us. And of course it looks a little bit something like this. Now this guy is a pretty bad dude. He goes by the name of Thanos. He's also known as the Mad Titan, and a whole bunch of other awesome, terrible names, like the Aspect of Death, the Harbinger of the End of the Universe. He's one of the biggest villains in the Marvel Universe, and when I say universe, I don't mean Earth, I don't mean any of the little space things they go into. I mean every character that exists on any of the planets and any of the realities in the entire Marvel Universe. He's kind of the big bad, actually. He first appeared in Iron Man 55, that was back in 1973. He was created by the artist and writer Jim Starlin. He was based on, to be honest, kind of stealing from DC a little bit. They just made a big bad named Darkseid because Jack Kirby had made all these characters called the New Gods, and Marvel wanted to make their own characters, and they called them the Eternals. And they lived on Titan, which is one of Saturn's moons, and Thanos is one of them. Now, normally they look very, very humanoid, very pretty, very, I'm a god. But Thanos was a mutant, and he's purple and bulky and not very, pretty. But he was incredibly intelligent. Because of his intelligence and that he looked different, he felt that he was different, that he had to separate himself, and that he was the only one in the universe that was like him. So he became a nihilist. He worshipped nothing, thought that nothing was the end-all, be-all, was the goal of the universe, was to eventually revert back to the nothing that it once was. And in doing so, he fell in love with death. And I don't mean just killing things, I mean he literally fell in love with the personification of death, who we refer to as Mistress Death. So, Mistress Death felt that there were more people alive than had ever been alive before, and that this was a problem with the universe. So she bade Thanos... Bade? Is that a word? Bade? So she gave Thanos powers, increased his strength, increased his mystical powers, so that he could attempt to wipe out half of all the living things that exist in the universe. In order to do this, he decided to go after the Cosmic Cube. Now, you might remember the Cosmic Cube as the Tesseract, or the Tesseract, that they keep talking about in the Avengers franchise. They talk about it in Thor, they talk about it in Captain America. Red Skull tried to get it, if you remember that. It's a really big deal in the universe because it can warp reality. It's a pretty intense, unlimited power type little device. So Thanos was going to use that to kill half the beings in the universe. However, a hero named Captain Marvel actually shattered the cube before Thanos was able to do that, and thus Thanos was defeated again. He had a second Thanos War, but it's not quite as exciting, so I'm going to skip to the meat of Thanos' life here. We're going to skip all the way to the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, this is a big deal. This was one of those huge crossovers that were really popular in the 90s. However, this one was actually pretty good. Now, Thanos, he'd uncovered something called the Infinity Gauntlet. At the start of the story, Thanos has already acquired what's known as the Infinity Gauntlet, which is a golden gauntlet with 6 gems inlaid in it. Now, these gems, later described by Thanos, they're actually the remains of a long god, an omnipotent being who actually created the universe, but was so lonely that he was by himself that he committed suicide, killed himself, removed himself from the time stream. But in his wake were 6 gems that were echoes of his power. There's the 6 gems, and one of them, green, is the soul gem. It allows the user to steal people's souls, their essence, and also allows them to bring them back, sometimes from the dead. There's time, pretty self-explanatory, speed up time, slow down time, time travel, freeze time. You can actually create loops in time and throw his enemies there and make them stuck in this little loop, having the same thing happen over and over again. Space allows him to exist in any space or every space all at once. Teleport, it's pretty useful. Mind gives him incredible mental capabilities above what he is already incredibly intelligent. It also allows him telekinesis powers, ability to move stuff with his mind and to actually control the minds of his enemies, read their minds, control their minds. There's the reality gem, which allows him to essentially grant wishes, in the sense that he can bend anything, change the rules of physics, reality, warp it to however he sees fit. And then there's the last one, power, which gives him all of the power and energy that ever existed and will ever exist, all at once. It also increases the power of all the other gems tenfold. They're all collected in this gauntlet, which gives him the abilities of a god, just the most omnipotent being that ever existed. Now, Thanos did this in an attempt to woo death. As you can see here, Thanos loves death. He was wanting to do anything he could to make death love him back. However, it didn't really seem to work out too well. As you can tell, she scorns him. She doesn't buy into it. Thanos, at the behest of, as you can see, his lackey boy at this point is Mephisto, who is the literal devil in the Marvel Universe. Mephisto helps remind him that he didn't actually complete his goal, which was to wipe out half of all of the life in the universe. And now that he has the gauntlet, well, it's a snap away. And with that snap, he actually does eliminate half of the life in all the universe. Kills a whole bunch of superheroes instantly. Hawkeye is one of them. Captain America is talking to him mid-conversation. Hawkeye winks out of existence, completely destroyed. Now, through plot twists and turns and a bunch of really long, really boring exposition, and then a bunch of fights that don't really make much sense with a bunch of characters that you really don't care about, Thanos eventually is defeated. Now, we find out why Thanos is defeated. A character named Adam Warlock. He's this being that's kind of like a god that lost his powers and then gets his powers back, and you don't really need to know much about him. However, there is a conversation between Thanos and Adam Warlock in this that's pretty interesting. As you can see here, Adam Warlock and Thanos discuss that Warlock is seen into Thanos' soul. He knows what's in his what Thanos is really about. And he knows that 3 times Thanos has gotten unlimited power, the Cosmic Cube, the Quantum Bands, the Infinity Gauntlet, and 3 times he's lost it. And the reason he's lost it is because he knows that he doesn't actually deserve the power. He knows that he's not worthy of it. So somehow he leaves himself open to fail. Which, of course, is probably how it's going to happen in the Avengers. Thanos is going to subconsciously give them a chance or play fair, and then he's going to lose, because that's what bad guys do. Now, the important thing to note is that we have this, the Infinity Gauntlet might be what we're leading up to. Now, if you haven't been following a lot of the Avengers news, this actually was back when Thor was coming out in theaters. There was a deleted scene from the Thor film. There's a clip of it here. It's in Odin's throne room, not his throne room, but his treasure room. You can see a little glint across the hallway as some of the Jotuns walk by. Now, what does that look like? Dun, 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 the Infinity Gauntlet, as you can see here. Now, so you can say that's just like, well, they were just doing a teaser. It's not actually going to be in the movie. But now we have Thanos. And then we have one other thing. So Thanos gave the guy in the movie who worked with Loki, a special device. A device that would help him conquer Earth. Lead the Chitauri to victory. It was in the scepter. Now here's Loki with his scepter. You notice there's that shiny blue thing in the scepter. And what did Loki do in the movie? When he stabbed people, he controlled their minds. Well, that reminds me of one of the gems in the Infinity Gauntlet. The blue one. The Mind Gem that lets you control minds. That are owned by Thanos, who's collecting them all to become the greatest being that ever lived and control the whole universe. And that's probably what the Avengers 2 is going to be about. But we've got a couple other sequels coming through. We have Thor 2 and Iron Man 2. But, of course, Thanos first appeared in Iron Man number 55, so maybe that's how it's all going to turn out. And you didn't used to know it, but now you do. That's Thanos. And I'm Chan Sterling. See you soon.